Alright, Infinity Kingdom. Welcome to another guide. In this one, we are going to go back to doing some build guides. It's been a while since I did a build. We've been doing a lot of other stuff recently, but right now I have a pretty nice free-to-play march. It's a fire march. It's a Cyrus fire, which I have discounted as something that didn't work for a long time, but it seems it really does. There's been some new development, and I've seen some various players run things like this, which I've developed a bit further on, and I'm quite excited to get it out there because I do actually believe that this kind of fire build is gonna be excellent for main marches. And that's a stressor right there, right? You can't run a Cyrus March as a second, third, as well as you can run it as a main. It scales a lot better as a main. But for all of you free-to-play players out there, this is a very easy setup to get and to develop, and it does perform extremely well. So let's dive right on in. First of all, why did I choose fire for this guide? Fire for free-to-play players just makes a lot of sense. The Immortals are largely free. You can get all 4 of them completely free. You can spend a little bit to max Cyrus a bit faster, but you can't get them all for free if you grind it out. Moreover, as a free-to-play, you are probably gonna be a bit behind the biggest whales in your server. You know, spending does give you more power in Infinity Kingdom. But what fire has really going for it is both a fire dragon breath with extremely high damage, as well as Immortals that just inherently deal a lot of burst and front-loaded damage. That means that you will always get a big sort of impact. You'll always make a dent in your enemy, no matter how big a whale, and that makes free-to-play marches quite strong. Rally scenarios, garrison scenarios, that kind of thing. Third, fire dragons are just awesome because the third skill that fire dragons has, the boost that boosts immortal damage, is based on buffs. That means that all those blessings and boons that we all love to run and that we know are S tier, well, they perform extremely well here. This build performs well against Shadow as long as your Wu doesn't get hit by the Shadow Dragon attack. If it does, then you might be in a bit of a problem. You know, the random silence one. Against anything else, I mean, it does lose to Big Whale Holy, as does pretty much everything, especially if you're a free-to-play player. But it does nuke quite hard, and it does make a dent in even the biggest of enemies, and that makes it a very valuable setup. Besides those big spender marches, you will be able to beat a lot of the meta setups with stuff like this. Like, for instance, the hybrid build is all the rage. It's all over the place, and this fire setup does wipe it. So the top free-to-play build is going to be a Cyrus, Wu, William, and Hippolyta fire build. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this build, I quickly want to mention a Huawei campaign. We've been doing this in a lot of the recent videos because I do think that for you guys out there, it is quite important to know how to get the best bang for your bucks. If you are looking to run this fire build at a max level, at an absolute end game level, you are going to spend on it, as you are any setup in Infinity Kingdom. If you want to fight the biggest boys, the big whales, then you do need to spend whatever you do. The difference is that while Holy is extremely expensive to get up, this fire build is extremely cheap, but you do have to spend, and in doing that, you're gonna want to spend efficiently. And doing that is taking advantage of the various campaigns that different companies has to offer. Sometimes G-Tarcade have some awesome stuff, and sometimes Huawei has some awesome stuff, etc. Right now at Huawei, and until the 1st of June, we got a pretty nice campaign going, where as you spend in the in-game shop via the app gallery app, then you get something they call flowers. It's sort of a campaign currency, which you exchange for coupons, which you can in turn use to buy more stuff in Infinity Kingdom. So it's basically just a big discount on stuff that you would otherwise spend anyway. It's just on top whatever you'd get in the first place. Spending just just $10 in this month, that'll get you a $1 coupon, and so on it goes. You can see the list here, and as you spend more, the rewards get increasingly bigger. Spending $500 for the month, that gets you a big whopping 100 euro or dollar coupon based on wherever you are. So it's a nice and easy event, and it's just a bit of extra value if you are spending in Infinity Kingdom, getting that fire to the absolute max. Alright, so the actual build setup that we are going to be running on these Immortals are as follows. So first up, there are kind of two ways to do this. You can run this fire as a free-to-play. You can run it well as a free-to-play. It works very well. You can run it as a main, as a spender main, and if you do that, you can kill anything. I've seen this kill the best hybrids, and I've seen it kill top-tier holy setups. But that does require some tower knowledge skills, which are locked away, and it's going to require some top-tier artifacts and stuff like that if you want to run it that way. So what we're going to be doing is taking sort of by default, we're going to go for these free-to-play, the player-friendly version, and then I'm just going to mention some stuff that you want to change up if you are a spender looking to make this your main march. So for Cyrus, as a default, we're running Assist, Malice, Blessing of Defense, or Absolute Defense. At first glance, this setup may not seem at all that very different from other fire builds. However, the devil's in the details, and the specific Immortals and Talents equipment does make quite a difference. As such, if you're running Blessing of Defense, Absolute Defense, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is if you are up against certain enemies. So for Cyrus, right, Malice is a great choice for just generally getting that crit protection. It's extremely important, especially in setups like this, because you have squishy Immortals. Taking one large crit is really going to set you back. Second up, Assist. Just a mandatory talent in this sort of setup. Your Cyrus is not dealing damage. His troop count is not very important. We need him for the debuff. So what we're going to do is we want to sacrifice some of his HP, some of his troop count, in order to protect our Empress Wu. Absolute Defense is quite powerful if you are up against something that will kill your backline in 5 seconds. If you are, then having Assist on is just going to mean that Cyrus dies before he gets to debuff. That doesn't work. Then you want to protect him with Blessing of Defense, Absolute Defense. If that is not the case, if Cyrus is not being killed in 10 seconds, well, then you want to run a Blessing of Defense for some added defense to your entire troop. If you are a spender, then you don't have this problem. You're going to have a high troop count, you're going to have nice tech, you're not going to die in 10 seconds no matter what you're up against. But what you are going to be doing is want to do more damage, and especially more damage once your enemy is on lower HP, because we have a fire dragon with us. We're going to reduce them to the troop count of the enemy quite quickly. So what you want to do is, instead of Absolute Defense or Blessing of Defense, you want to run the Fear Aura, the Aura of Domination. Right, so moving to Empress Wu. On her you want to run Annihilation, Death Breath, and Chase. This is again a standard fire setup. What Empress Wu is best at is dealing a ton of damage. She crits a lot, and you want to have a crit artifact on her to ensure those chase procs of just massive burst damage. You want to set off Chase on cooldown. And the way to do that is to have her proc a lot of times. You need crit and you need proc abilities, because her ultimate ability is not really suited for securing those chase procs. So you want to run Annihilation and you want to run Death Breath. Death Breath being the single best Tower of Knowledge passive to set off Chase. This being said, both Death Breath and Annihilation is rivaled by other Tower of Knowledge skills, spender skills, or well, at least Legion of Frostborn skills. You can get them for free, but it's gonna take you quite a while. Storm Eye and Spell Disintegration. These are both quite massive. They are basically just better, and you want to run them if you can. So if you are a spender, or just someone who's been banked and doing a lot of Legion of Frostborn seasons, well, you want to run those instead, and you want to prioritize Spell Disintegration. As for all mages, magic damage dealers, Spell Disintegration is just a game changer. So you want to save up those Legion marks, those code coins, and spend them on Season 3 when Spell Disintegration releases. For William, we are running Resist, Energy Suppression, and Fighting Will. Pure and simple, Resist is just amazing for defense against big bursty magic damage. That's for if you are free to play, you are probably facing a lot of Merlins, Hammurabis, magic damage dealers, Himikos, other fires. You're gonna be likely facing a lot of magic damage, and Resist is just awesome for that. Energy Suppression, top tier skill. You want to run that in any fire setup. Fighting Will, it's excellent, especially in this hybrid Earth-Wind meta. If you are up against someone who did not make his either doesn't have unique for Alex, or just didn't run Fighting Master on Hannibal, then this is massive. And even if you are not, fire is squishy. You will be reduced on troops quite quickly, and that added damage from Fighting Will is quite solid. If you are a spender, or if you are a big boy, then Resist starts to lose value because we are in a physical damage meta. Some things that you may wanna change up if you can is you can swap out Resist for Siren's Gaze. If you do that, you get a unique taunt ability that works quite well, especially with Fighting Will, because it ensures that William drops faster, and as he does, he controls the enemy. We are using William as a buff machine here, not a damage dealer per se. Furthermore, you can choose, this is something that I want to swap out based on enemy and opponent only. Like if I'm up against a hybrid, then you need paralysis, the aura paralysis. You need that because reducing the attack speed of an Alexander and a Hannibal is just a must if you are to survive long enough to kill them. If you are not against a hybrid, then you don't want to run paralysis. Well, swap that in there. You can even, if you are up against a hybrid, swapping it for energy suppression is quite solid, because energy suppression doesn't affect hybrid in any meaningful way. Well, at least not a lot. For Hippolyta, the last Immortal in this setup, we are running Weakness, Oaken Guard, and Energy Burst. This is sort of a standard default setup that just ensures that we get that Oaken Guard defense. We get that defense from physical damage. That's awesome. That's solid. We get the trigger on the Fire Dragon's buff. That's great. Weakness, self-explanatory. We're running fire. We want crit, crit, crit. Energy Burst. It works quite well on Hippo because she has high amounts of damage instances, especially if you're running her unique artifact. You're dealing 7 instances of damage every time she casts an ability, on top of that normal attack damage as well. So she will proc that pretty regularly. That being said, this is something that you can swap out if you want to, if you are getting pressured too hard up front, like if you're facing a hybrid again. You want to do something like a physical shield on your Hippolyta, and you may consider doing an what's it called? Adrenaline rush over energy burst, depending on your crit. Like, I don't know what your specific Hippolyta is at in stats, what rolls did you get on your artifact, all this kind of thing. If you got a bit of extra secondary rolls for crit, if you have natively high crit, you're in game, you got all the tech, VIP, stuff like that, energy burst becomes very powerful. Before that, adrenaline rush is stronger. So basically, this is what you want to run default against hybrids. Again, swap into paralysis, swap into physical shield. As for the dragon, our last piece of the puzzle, the fire dragon is a pretty simple one. You deal a lot of damage. But you also have the dragon talents, and you need to select what kind of fire dragon you want. For that, you want to run Calamity. This is pretty simple. You are dealing damage via your Empress Wu. Wu is gonna melt everything in her way, and as such, we want to get that added buff. We want to focus our buffs on increasing her damage, and doing that is just Calamity. It's great. The one allied unit with the highest magical attack gets the entire buff for 27 seconds, and it can't be dispelled. That's awesome. On top of that, you also get the burning, to the breath. You get an addition that burning targets reduce its physical damage dealt by 6% for 3 seconds. Again, that is just 6% to begin with. It goes to 36% in the end, and that is just massive. Facing an end game holy setup that deals 36% less damage off the bat. Maybe not the biggest thing since Manko didn't come online, but it does impact something. And again, against hybrids, it's the meta right now. The first 3 seconds is where the hybrid wants to kill you. It wants to get ahead and start steamrolling in the very first seconds. This means it can't. The main thing about dragons now is by far the intense roll, increasing the crit damage of your Empress. So for the results, why am I so on about this setup? It performs quite impressively. Competing against, I've seen it compete against big spender marches, and it does that very well. It's able to kill spenders at a free-to-play level. It's able to kill whales as a light to mid spender. It just performs extremely well. My own main hybrid has been killed by this setup multiple times, and I am currently moving into running it as my secondary instead of holy. Right, that's all I have. I mean, I think the result speaks for itself, but do go and try it out. If you got a big fire dude in your server, send him a link. Let's see what he finds, she finds, and do keep me informed. I'm always looking for new things to learn. It's a learning journey and a learning opportunity for all of us. And if you advance on this build, if you change some things up and it works really well, do hit me up, because as I said, I am going to be running this setup seriously, and any input is highly encouraged. Other than that, just thank you for watching, and seeing you again after a bit of downtime. I'm Myrak on server 105. You can always find me there and on Discord, as well as on the IK Wiki website. As always, please do subscribe to the channel. I consistently release new content here on the IK channel and on the official IK Wiki website. Links are in the description. On these channels you can find guides from everything in IK, from events to talents, passives, finished builds and game mechanics. With that, I'm gonna leave you, and as always, thank you for watching, and see you for the next one.